Okay, I'm going to talk about this quote I see. It goes around a lot. People say that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Now, this kind of implies that there's a competition between two groups, right? And depending on who you ask, one person may define one side as the terrorist and the other as the freedom fighter. And if you ask another person, they might define them in the opposite way, right? One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. So to kind of explain this quote a little better, let's think about how this can happen. Just put yourself in the shoes of the freedom fighter, right? Your goal is essentially to you're going to eliminate the terrorist, right? Perhaps you're going to try to kill all the terrorists, and in doing so you eliminate the threat, and you are going to free somebody, right? Or you're going to free somebody of the violence that the terrorists are inflicting, right? So if you start out though and you don't ask yourself why the terrorists became terrorists, then you're going to miss out. You're not going to understand the complexity of the situation, of the competition, right? So if we ask ourselves why the terrorists became terrorists, the answer is that they feared for their safety. Okay, and you might not like to hear that. You might like to think that all the terrorists in the world are just evil people who want to control others. But in reality, the groups that get the identification of terrorists, the people we call terrorists, they're kind of the less dominant, less powerful people in these dynamics, right? The freedom fighter is defined by the more powerful group more often, right? The United States military are the freedom fighters. Israel are the freedom fighters, right? The IDF. Meanwhile, Gaza are, well, they're the terrorists, right? Or Hamas. So let's again, we have to understand that the reason these people became terrorists is because they feared for their safety. They feared for the safety of their loved ones, perhaps, and they were pushed so far to the brink that violence was the only path they saw out of the brink, right? And we can define that brink. What is the brink? Well, the brink is being in a situation where you can't get your needs met. When you can't get your needs met, again, you fear for your safety or the safety of your loved ones. If you can't start an economy that is capable of producing your needs, then you might become a terrorist by somebody's definition. You might become a terrorist that seeks to fulfill those needs. And in the process of fulfilling those needs, you might have to eliminate the supposed freedom fighters, right? So this kind of leaves you in a bit of a pickle if you are the freedom fighter, because you can either kill the terrorists, and then what's going to happen? Well, their children are going to become terrorists, right? If you kill the terrorists and you don't kill their children, then you're going to just have another generation of terrorists in 25 or 30 years, right? People are going to defend their own, and if you kill the terrorists and you don't allow them to create that economy, if you don't allow them to find a way to meet their needs, then there's just going to be another generation of terrorists, okay? On the other hand, the other option is to ignore the terrorists, and then you risk, perhaps, what if the terrorists get a hold of some weapons of mass destruction? Then you threaten, or then you risk becoming a victim of the terrorists, right? You can't risk that as the more powerful, dominant party in this conflict. You can't risk becoming the victim of weapons of mass destruction. So this is where the Trump strategy comes in, and this isn't a strategy that's unique to Trump, but Trump did vocalize this strategy during his I don't know, sometime between 2015 and 2020. He said, you don't just kill the terrorists, you kill the terrorists and you kill the terrorist children, and that way you don't have another generation of terrorists. And if we look at Gaza right now, perhaps that's what's happening to some extent. Now, are they, I mean, there's been plenty of innocent people killed in Gaza since October 7th, right? Plenty of innocent children. And perhaps some of those children were the children of members of Hamas, right? And what this strategy assumes, again, I called it the Trump strategy, but it's not really unique to Trump. Okay, what this strategy assumes is that, first of all, that it's possible to kill all of the children and all of the, and all of the terrorists. But beyond that, it assumes that, say you do kill all the terrorists, right? Say you kill every member of Hamas and anyone that's connected to Hamas in Gaza and in the Middle East, in that entire region in general. Say you kill all of them. What happens next? Well, you might think the problem's solved, right? You might seem like you fixed the problem if you killed all the terrorists, all of their friends, and all of their family, and all of their children, right? But it only seems like that if you are a very, very short-sighted thinker. Now, let me explain why. Okay, so the world's globalized, right? We have economies, complex economies that trade goods and services with each other. And in addition to trading goods and services, we're trading people, okay? We immigrate and emigrate all around the world, okay? So what that means is that the terrorists and the innocent civilians that you killed in Gaza, they have relatives and friends that live in the United States, that live in Israel, okay? And what this implies is that there is no ability to get rid of the terrorists because we are connected worldwide. Again, globalization has ensured that fact. So when you try to kill all the terrorists in one region, those terrorists have, and their families and the innocent people that you killed, they have friends and family throughout the world. So what you've done is you've basically moved the terrorism to your own soil. And what that does, and say you are somebody who doesn't have any indirect connections to Gazans or the innocent Gazans, you probably know somebody who does. And when you see them getting pissed off about it, and you see them acting out because of it, it's going to affect you, okay? What we basically have here is we have a chain of empathy. And you may not have a direct link to Gaza or the innocent Gazans being killed, but you are connected to this chain of empathy. And even if it is indirect, that chain of empathy leads back around, and it affects you. That chain of empathy dissolves any concept of this freedom fighters versus terrorists. What it does is it connects every innocent life that we murder in Gaza right back to you. And if you don't believe me, again, you have to look closer at these issues. We have plenty of Muslim Americans that live in the United States, and they are pissed off at what's going on in Gaza. Maybe they commit a terrorist act in the United States, or maybe they just get pissed off and start acting like an asshole in the United States. Or maybe they start voting differently. Or maybe they speak out and cause a protest, and at that protest maybe somebody commits an act of violence, or maybe it just creates social strife. That protest creates social strife. Again, this chain of empathy links every single human being on the planet together. Again, it may not be a direct link, but somewhere down that chain, you are linked to, you are going to be pulled by the innocent civilians that were killed in Gaza and the innocent civilians that were killed in Israel, okay? I'm not whitewashing the crimes of Hamas here. That's not the point. Okay, we can't throw out this chain of empathy because it does affect us. So does this make me an empath? I don't think so. I think it just makes me logical, to be honest. We're letting immigrants into our country, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but it is a bad thing in the context of bombing the friends and relatives of those immigrants in the Middle East. And does that mean I think we should stop letting the immigrants in? I don't think so. I'm just going to make an analogy here. So let's imagine that there's a well-fed pack of dogs, okay? And those dogs, they're traveling to their territory, and they come across a dog, an injured dog. And this dog, they don't know this dog. This pack of dogs doesn't know this dog. But again, this pack of dogs is well-fed, so they're not gonna cannibalize the dog or anything. What are they gonna do? Well, they're probably just gonna go on their way. They can't really do anything for the dog, right? They can't take the dog to a doctor. They don't have the ability to heal this dog, right? So they're just gonna go on their way. They're going to maybe they send regards and walk away from the dog. Now, again, now let's swap this analogy over to humans. Let's say that you are a well-fed human. You're in a group of well-fed humans, perhaps in the United States, and you, by one way or another, learn about these injured dogs, or an injured dog in Gaza who happens to be an innocent child. Okay, you learn about this dog. What are you going to do? Are you going to claim that you're powerless and that you have no ability to help this dog or help this innocent child, or are you going to help the child? Being that you are well fed, being that you are a human and not a dog, and you do have the ability to help this child, are you going to help him, or are you going to walk away? It's like, we are human beings. We have a consciousness that enables us to solve problems in a manner that many other species can't do. Again, that pack of dogs, they walk away from that injured dog because what the hell else are they going to do? They don't have an entire medical industry that they can, that can give the dog surgery or antibiotics or whatever. We can fix these problems if we tell ourselves we can fix these problems. But if we just keep allowing our tax dollars to fund Israel, then what's going to happen? Well, the innocent people are going to continue to be killed. Okay, we have to understand what is implied by this one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. It's what's implied is a fallacy. We're all connected. Okay, there's again, this chain of empathy makes us all one, and that's what every religion has ever preached. That's what every great philosopher has ever preached. That's what the nice guy on the street, often the nice homeless guy on the street, will tell you. And yet we're so caught up in political division and culture wars that we can't see this. We can't see beyond the gender war or the race war or the political war. It's really frustrating when you're looking at the solutions to the problems, and really all it is taking control of yourself. We need to stand up for the crimes we see, even if it's our own tax dollars committing those crimes. It's really simple. If you vote for different people, all of a sudden, well, maybe we're not funding Israel's genocide in Gaza. Maybe we're funding the economy in Gaza that enables Gazans to create a government that is better than Hamas. Again, bring it back to this concept of this chain of empathy. We're connected to every human being on this planet, whether directly or indirectly. Whether it's maybe you have a friend who is a Palestinian, and he has a friend who's another Palestinian, and that friend lost somebody in Gaza. It's going to affect you. I don't care who you are, it's going to affect you indirectly, and eventually it's going to creep into you and cause real problems. It's going to cause sickness on a societal wide level, and that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing in the United States. The chronic disease epidemic is a massive problem. And what does it come down to? I think it comes down to money, in my mind. It comes down to fear. Okay, people they fear scarcity, so they collect excess wealth, and that creates scarcity in Gaza, for example. And then what do? Well, now we have markets. We have entire markets built around profiting from killing Gazans or wars, funding wars in general. Instead of using that money to solve the problems, we created a market that profits and makes the problems worse. Again, if we become conscious of this, we get rid of these problems and we find peaceful solutions. There is no violent solution to a problem. There's just not. There's no way that you can kill somebody and have it not backfire on you in the years to come. Now, how long does it take to backfire? Sometimes it's right away, sometimes it's decades. Sometimes it doesn't backfire necessarily through violence. Sometimes the backfire comes through, again, chronic disease epidemics. Sometimes it comes through economic problems. It's all connected. We're all connected by this chain of empathy. And if you Again, we're humans. You don't even have to have a definable indirect connection to an innocent Gazan to feel empathy for them. I can't think of any direct connection or indirect connection I have to somebody who was killed in Gaza. I can't. But I still feel empathy for them. And it still drives me to make videos like these. It drives me to vote differently. It drives me to speak out against the military industrial complex. And I recommend you do that too. Just speak about this. Talk about these issues. Those words, they translate into actions. They translate into behavioral changes that change the world. So give that a little thought. Thanks for watching.